So obviously on this channel, I talk about third parties a lot. There are five parties in New Zealand politics right now. You're the Labour Party, National Party, Maori Party, Green Party, and the ACT Party. And they're all very important in creating this fabric of what the New Zealand electoral system is. And your other third parties are really important in New Zealand as well. There was the New Zealand First Party and the United Party, or United Future Party, and the Mana Party, and so many other, and a few other parties have been a part of New Zealand politics that I think has really made New Zealand politics what it is, without it being just a two-party system like, say, in America. So there's always the talk every, electoral cycle, even though we're just out of one now. So there's still 3 years away to the next election in 2023. But there's always a conversation about who's the new kid on the block, who's going to come in, who's going to try to win. And the last couple of elections, we talk about the new Conservative Party and the Opportunities Party. They're the new ones that are like almost squeaking in there. They've both come pretty close, not last election maybe, but, like relatively close to being contenders. And so I want to talk about a new one that has come to light in my mind, that has come to my attention relatively recently in the last couple of months, they're called the United Party. And I'm very sketchy on what they I'm very sketchy about, who's a member of this party, what all their policies are. Obviously, we're years away. This is the really start of this party. And I just wanted to have a look at it now, and then I can talk about them later in the future as well, as they blossom into this new party. So I've actually talked to the founder of this party, Hayden Laurie, and so he seems like a really great bloke. I think I'll be able to talk to him on this channel sometime, which would be awesome. It would be amazing if we could get that done. And so he ran in the Christchurch Central electorate as an independent. I think he was trying to just dip his toe into politics, see how he is, and alright, so I'm gonna be fair and be honest, he got crushed, right? He came dead last, he got 93 votes in an electorate. Out of 30,000 and change people in an electorate, he got 93, which is a weird number. I was thinking about this the other day, so I have to talk about this to him, because it's I feel like 93 is a weird number. If you're actively campaigning, I feel like you should be able to get more than 93, but if you're not actively campaigning, how do you convince the 93 people to vote for you? It's really strange. So I'd love to talk to him about that, and why you're out as an independent, and all that stuff. Because I think there is a lot of overlapping policies that we'll get to. They kind of overlap with other parties like the Green Party and the Opportunities Party as well. That I think that they've got very similar policies. But, so I just wanted to mention, so they're called, if you look at their Twitter page, they're called the United Party New Zealand. They've got this purple, background color. They say they're launching 2021, 2022. And, alright, so if you've seen my Peter Dunn video that I've made, or you know anything about New Zealand politics, you know that there was this party called the United Future Party from the early 2000s till 2017 that was very influential in New Zealand. But they're no longer around anymore. They've disbanded the party. But I do feel calling this party the United Party New Zealand, if it doesn't actually have official affiliation with the previous party, with Peter Dunn's party, if this doesn't have something to do with Peter Dunn or the leader just before it disbanded, Damien Light, or anything like that, I just feel I don't think they're going to get away with having this type of name and this colouring and all this stuff. So the Electoral Commission in New Zealand is very particular whether people would be confused when voting for a party. So, for example, Hana Tamaki in 2020, when she was creating her party, the Vision Party, but before she called it the Vision Party, she tried to call it the Coalition Party, which the Electoral Commission said that it was too confusing. People wouldn't understand, because coalition is a term used in politics, which means two parties, working together to form a coalition to govern. And by using a term like that, it would be a bit confusing for people. And I think that this would be confusing for some people. And I don't think, I could be wrong. It could already be, registered with the Electoral Commission. I doubt it. I doubt it so far away. But I doubt that this could be registered with the Commission in its current form. So we'll see. We'll see. Okay, so the very first thing. So they've released 10 different, articles on each, specific section. So you've got your electoral issues section, your taxation section, your drug section, so many others. Yeah, there's many. But, okay, so we're going to start with the electoral issues one, which I think is the most interesting one they've talked about. Okay, so very first one, lowering MMP threshold to 1%. I think that's questionable. I think that's very questionable. So I love MMP, I love third parties, I think we should lower the 5% threshold that we have. 1% is too low. 1% is, I think there's a lot of evidence that 1% is too low. If you look at parliaments like the Israeli parliament, where they have a threshold of 2% and they used to have a threshold of 1%, and they just have too much, too many factions of parties in their parliament that they can't actually get anything done. And I think, I'm pro getting more and more voices and ideas in there, but I don't think 1% would be good. So yeah, so I'm going to disagree on that one, and I'll try not to talk too much on every single thing, or we'll be here all day. But I'm just that's just what I think. No term limits for politicians, love it. There shouldn't be term limits. It's good. Change debate law. All parliamentary parties must be invited. Like all. Do you really think that all should be on the stage? I'm all for talking about the Opportunities Party and the New Conservative Party being allowed to be on the stage. But parties like the Legalized Marijuana Party and the Ban 1080 Party, such fringe parties that end up getting like 1,000 votes at most, like every election. It's like, do they deserve to be on the stage? Like, how are we meant to have discussion on important policy if we've got people who have no chance of being anywhere, like on the stage? Now, I think the current rules are too rigid and too restrictive on current members, but we should extend the rules to allow more parties on the stage, but saying all is a bit much. Maintaining a salary cap for MPs' annual income, I think that's a bad call. I think that's bad. It's very easy to criticize and say MPs are paid too much. An MP in New Zealand is paid roughly, $130,000, and a minister can be paid up to $300,000, which, it's a lot of money to me and you, right? It's a lot of money to the average person. But consider where they are. The people at that level could be working in the private sector, and the people at the private sector are earning that money, if not more. An argument could be made that they're actually underpaid for the work that they do. And you want the good people working in in Parliament. I think it's an easy thing to criticize, MP salaries, but I don't think it's actually practical to cap their salaries. Double the size of Parliament from 240. What? Double the size of Parliament to 240 MPs by 2050. I don't know why. Unless our population doubles by then. I don't see why we would need 240 MPs. We have 120 at the moment. And it's more than enough. I think that, ACT talks about wanting to cut it to 100. And, honestly, it's not nothing. We don't need more than 120. Yes. Yeah. I don't know. I think it's I don't see the point. Allocate electoral funding more fairly, maybe, I don't know. Lower the cap of donations towards the political parties. We do have very strict, campaign finance law in New Zealand, and, many parties do get caught up in it, and in breaking the law. Was it, only ACT? ACT was the only party in the last election that wasn't, caught up in electoral campaign, finance issues. Oppose the change to 4-year term. That's something I'm on the fence of as well, if I want a 4-year term instead of a 3-year term like we already have. But I'm not sure. So at least they're putting their ideas out there, right? Limit the South Island seat quota to 16. I don't know why. The seat quota makes sense. Unless a bunch of people are moving to the South Island, I don't see the point. And no, they're not really. The population growth in the North Island is exploding in comparison to the South Island. So I don't see. So for anyone who doesn't know, how MMP works is, we have, the party vote and the electorate vote, right? And you get your electorate vote split up into your electorates, which are districts around the country. And the way they're allocated is we have a strict 16 seat quota in the South Island. So we say that the South Island is always going to be split up into 16 electorates. That's just how it is. 16 electorates. And the North Island would compensate based on their population to fit the same quota. So if there's 30,000 people in every electorate in the South Island, which is roughly what it is, you have 30,000 eligible voters, then the North Island will be allocated into electorates that are roughly 30,000 people big. So everything could be roughly equal. So to get rid of the 16 quota, I think it meddles with how NMP even works, Always have 50% list seats and 50% electoral seats. I don't know why. Like, that just seems to be something that will benefit small parties. I think that's what a lot of these are, It's like, we got to get small parties in, which I agree, but... Alright, let's go through a bit more. Taxation. This is the one that I think is the most interesting. So GST reduction to 10%, love it. Love it. 10% is great. So John Key increased it from 12.5% to 15%, and I think that's a mistake. I think that flat tax rates like sales taxes, they impact poorer people more than they impact richer people. And by cutting GST and increasing income tax or increasing capital gains or implementing a capital gains tax would more fairly, tax people instead of, blank tax people at the same amount. So yeah, decrease GST to 10%, love it. Remove GST from fruit and vegetables, nah, I don't like it. The concept of the New Zealand tax system is meant to be that it's simple. The concept of it is, we have simple tax brackets. We don't have a lot of, tax credits in this country. Everything, it's very simple. And by having it, and sales taxes being on everything, on every service and every good, it's a good way and a simple way to tax everything. So it's, no, I don't agree with getting rid of fruit and vegetables. We'll get to what should be, better than that, right? So this one is questionable. A progressive business tax decrease based on size. I don't even understand what this question is. Well, what this point is. Because we don't have a progressive business tax rate in New Zealand. Because we have a flat tax rate for businesses at 28%. So I don't understand what this question is talking about. So maybe I'll have to talk to him about that later. So this is the one that gets me. Opposing the tax on sugar. No, I don't love it. I think a sugar tax and a junk food tax is the way to benefit health and with a tax system. So this party wants to remove GST from fruits and vegetables, and that would incentivize people to eat healthier. But no, I think a sugar tax and a junk food tax is the way to go. That's the way to do it. It's like an excise tax that we have on alcohol and cigarettes, and so that's an extra sales tax that we have on goods that we say is bad. And we already have that framework. So why don't we put that on things like sugar? Yeah. Lower the tax rate for the bottom two brackets by 2% and increase the tax rate for the highest two brackets by 2%. Yeah, love it. I don't know specifically about the numbers, but I do like the concept of increasing the top two and decreasing the bottom two. They say they're against tax credits in general. Sure, we're maybe. Yeah. Create a tax bracket at 120k. I love it, but they don't specify what percent they would put it at, would it be 40%? Our highest tax bracket is 33% at the moment. Should the next one be 40%? Should it be 55%? Should it be 50%? I don't know. I'm not proposing this. I do propose a higher thing. I don't know what percent I would draw it at, but yeah, what percent do you want the 120k one to be? Start a 1% once a year vacancy tax on unused property. I kind of love it. I've been meddling around with concepts like this on how to tax or punish people for unused property. Because, the far left of me wants to just say, use eminent domain to take property that people aren't using and sell it to the market. But maybe a 1% vacancy tax would be way better. Yeah, so we'll see. And the last bit is just evaluate each tax's change on the economy. Obviously, I think a limit of their format that they have here, they have to have 10 things in each one, and so they kind of have to fill it up with categories. The social media one, I didn't find it that interesting. I didn't really know, a lot of their things that they have, and you'll see it throughout here, is they just say reform something. So let's reform the Harmful Digital Communications Act, and it's okay, but what does that mean? What do you mean reform? And that's a problem with this very simplistic stance that they have on these basic policies, is we don't really know what the policy is. Similar to that tax rate one, it's at 120k, what is the percent that you want? What does reform mean? It's later in this they'll probably say, we've got to reform the RMA, but what does that mean? Like, what does reform mean? Every party in the parliament wants to reform the RMA, but, like, what does it mean? So I don't know. A lot of the things that they say in this, which is questionable and doesn't show a lot of depth, is they just say they want to reform something, they want to fix something, they want to invest in something, but they don't give a proper policy. So housing. Very important housing in New Zealand, especially in the big cities like Auckland, Wellington, Christchurch, where the founder of this is from. So opening up the greenfields for development. So this is essentially saying, let there be more urban sprawl, let the cities get wider, whereas the current policy is let cities stay the same size and just build in tighter, which is very slow to do. But if you open up the greenfields, it would be a lot quicker to do. So, the concept is it's tricky. How big do you want to open up the greenfields? How wide do you want Auckland, say? It's very tricky. But, at least they're trying to do something about housing, unlike every other fucking party, right? Enable a build-to-rent housing scheme. Sure, I think it's a good concept. A lot of this is talking about, like, cut back on regulations, like on, skyscraper height and stuff. I think, replace the RMA with a more effective alternative. What does effective alternative mean? What is wrong with the RMA? Like, you have to talk about, because, like, every party agrees that the RMA is fucked, right? But no party, none of these parties agree on what is wrong with the RMA. They all have different problems with it. Like, National will say there's too much regulation, and Greens will say there's too much regulation at some point, but we need to increase the regulation at other points, and we still need to look after the environment, all this stuff. Yeah, transport. An interesting thing in this section was the free public transport for those under 18. I think it's an interesting concept, but a thing I would prefer is, to heavily subsidize transport for all people. Like, public transport's pretty expensive. It's pricey, and it's like if public transport is comparable to the price of just driving your car, like, people are just going to drive their car because they get there directly. If you could get on a bus and you could travel from one side of Auckland to the other for like $2, everyone would fucking do it. It would be so much better, and it would be better on the environment. So I think a great investment would be to subsidize, like, all public transport, not just for under 18s. Under 18s don't even pay don't even pay the bills. They don't even pay taxes. Why are they getting all the benefit? Only have electric buses by 2035. I like that goal. I don't know if it's sustainable or realistic. I think that is something you should push onto the local governments to try to figure out themselves. So we'll see. Yeah, this one, like, expand airport capacity if necessary. It's not necessary. Our airports are closed. That's probably a pre-COVID policy, and I guess post-COVID policy, but... Okay, so under the government section, expand the amount of bills that Parliament can pass every year. Is there a limit on bills? I don't think so. I think the only thing holding them back is the time that it takes for Parliament to sit, right? Do you want Parliament to sit more? I don't really understand. Gradually move New Zealand towards a republic. I love it. New Zealand should be a republic, 100%. I don't know if it's the most pressing matter we have, which is the thing that I think is why people don't really care, because it's not that pressing. But yeah, I agree. Set a goal of 80% young voter enrolled by 2030. I agree. I don't know how you're going to do it, though, other than doing an Australian, you must vote, thing. You must vote law, or you're going to get fined $50. I'm not sure about that. A thing I've been playing around with is the concept of a tax credit, or like some level of voucher or something that you can get when you vote. So say you go in to vote, and then you get like a $20 voucher or a $30 voucher that you can use within a couple of months or whatever. And then that could be used to stimulate the economy a bit more as well, of people going out for dinner or whatever. Yeah, and aim for 90% voter turnout by 2035. I don't know how you're going to do that without like an increase of an incentive, like what I just proposed, or like the Australian model. Oppose any creation of upper house in Parliament. Love it. It makes sense. Remove the compulsory tie wearing in Parliament dress code. Love it. It's already been done though, so, you can probably scratch that out of your policy. The economic stuff it's interesting, like increase the minimum wage, I'm fine with. No new tariffs for the first year is weird. It's a weird policy, especially saying not for the first year. Like, what does that mean? Like, you want to be elected for 3 years, don't you? Like why say not for the first year? I think it's strange. Opposing universal basic income. Rough, you've lost me. You lost me. Nah, like, I'm still into a lot of this stuff, but I think UBI is great. I'd love to talk to him about, like, what's his caveats with UBI. Increase parental leave from 30 to 35. Love it. It's always good. Ensure that New Zealanders are meeting the living wage by 2035. Great as well. I don't know about that specific year. Like, why is it far away? But yeah, I'm into it. Justice and law, they talk about, like, ruling out the death penalty, banning conversion therapy. Some things that by the time 2023 comes around, conversion therapy will be banned by then, surely. Like, it seems pretty likely that it will be. The death penalty is obviously already illegal, but it's good to have, know your basis on it, The problem is that I see in this is that a lot of these things, they talk about, like, abortion law a bit later, like saying they're pro-choice. And I think those policies in New Zealand are very individual basis and not about what the party wants. Like, you see, like, we have our conscience votes in Parliament where we talk about should the death penalty be legal, should abortion be legal, should gay marriage be legal. And I don't think it's really up to the parties to have a party platform on things like that. But that's just my opinion. But yeah. Legalize marijuana, love it, even though it lost the referendum. Okay, keep pushing for it. It's great. Talking about decriminalizing all drugs as well, which is fucking based, so I'm gonna say it right now. This party seems to have a lot of overlap with the Opportunities Party and the Green Party, and I think it would be tricky to see a lane for it to come in. But if you came out swinging with a decriminalize all drug policy and had to make, say, the Green Party and the ACT Party, which is meant to be libertarian on drug policy, have to make public statements about their drug policy, I think it will be an absolute benefit. If you came out swinging as a decriminalize all drugs party, you have my vote 100%. 100%. You have my vote, you have my endorsement, you have everything. There's a couple more categories here that I'll put up on the screen. I'm not going to read through them now. This video is already a bit long. And so I think some of them are very interesting. Some of them are, they're lacking a lot of, they're lacking detail, and that's what all this is doing. It's lacking detail. Obviously, they haven't properly launched, and so, like, obviously this is a long way out, so to criticize them for being limited on their policy details would be unfair, I would say. So this is just an outline of the basic ideas. So follow them on Twitter. I'm doing it, and check out their posts. I think it is very, I think it could be interesting to see where they go from this. I love third parties in New Zealand. Like any other third parties I see, I'll come talk about as well. Like, I really think third parties need a platform, and so even the very little that I can do, I think, to get their voice out there, I think is good for society. So please let me know what you think about some of these policies that I've talked about. If you're interested in this, I'm trying to get an interview lined up with the founder of this party, because I think that would be very interesting. Yeah, so thanks for watching.